much, and a wonderful good morning to everybody here in the room. Fantastic to see faces in person again. And welcome as well to everybody who's joining online. Great to have you here with us as well. How are you all doing? It is day 2 of this fantastic conference, and I hope you are as much excited as I am to be here. I'm talking about procurement transformation today. So let's start a little bit with having you all involved a little bit into this. Procurement transformation. So hands up, everybody who has been ever involved in a procurement transformation here in the room. Hands up. That are almost all hands. So I will talk a little bit about our journey today. I hope that is going to be relevant for you as well in terms of sharing many bits and pieces of what helped us and what is going to be helpful for us going forward. And I'm for sure happy then to engage later on about your experiences and your questions as well. So let me set a little bit of context for you first. And let me take the clicker as well. So I work for Bayer, and many of you might know Bayer as the aspirin company, while in fact we have 3 business lines: crop science, pharmaceuticals, and consumer health. And we tackle the most pressing challenges of the world in health and nutrition. So health for all and hunger for none is what we are all up for. We are overall in 83 countries. We have roughly 100,000 employees worldwide, sales of 44 billion, and 5.4 billion, which we invest in research and development. Diverse international focus, cross-border, cross-divisional people development matters. Leadership is core, and being ahead of the curve is our ambition. So let's now look at the procurement organization at Bayer. So we are at Bayer Procurement, meanwhile, an organization of 650 professionals worldwide. And we are organized overall in a kind of 3-party operating model. So the 650 are within our own procurement areas, and we do closely collaborate with our own captive shared services center on the one hand, and we do work with an external service provider, and you will hear a little bit more about that later on. Our procurement areas are mainly located at 5 hub locations globally, and we do manage roughly 23 billion spent annually, and we look after 80,000 suppliers. These are 2021 numbers. Suppliers went down as an outcome of a strategic effort. So this is where we are more or less now, and that is the outcome of repositioning us completely different as a central commercial function, which is really helping to make resilient and competitive choices for our organization globally. So how did we get there? You will hear a little bit later on from where we were coming from before. One of our secret kind of ingredients for our transformation is really what I would like to call collective courage. Because it took a lot of courage in our leadership to think bold, to develop a plan which is changing everything. Because just to give you an indication, in the context of this transformation, we touched 50% of the jobs and roles globally we did have before. We maximized our value output significantly. We were able to focus much more on value-creating activities. We were able as well to completely automate and increase efficiency in our operational and tactical processes. Collective courage required us to think big and bold from a leadership point of view. While I would like to share with you as well that there was a lot of courage of our employees involved. Because if you think a little bit on the magnitude of the change which I talked about, then this is only working if you have a workforce fully committed to that change, who goes through anxieties, to concerns, to how is it going to look for me individually? Will I have a role in this future setup? All those topics. So then in such a scenario, being able to really step up and to say, yep, I make it happen. I work on transforming. I work on transitioning. I make sure that we do not drop the ball is a massive achievement of courage, in my view. And then last but not least, there is a lot of courage of our business involved into that as well. Because maybe you can imagine when we came up with this plan in the beginning, it's a multi-year journey, there was a lot of skepticism around. How is it going to work for me? Is my support model going to be different? How does it feel, if you will see that a little bit earlier, if I have not a human being next to me in all my daily questions? Are we dropping? Are we risking too much? Is that something we are really up for? So courage and trust of our business environment that this is exactly the right thing to do was required as well. Let me share maybe a little bit my own personal, individual courage moment in this as well. So I was leading during that transformation and taking over, among some other topics, at the time, our German local procurement organization, roughly 300 people at the time. And after almost 1 month, I did know that this organization is not going to continue to exist in that setup. And what happens if you are new in a leadership role? People look up to you. They want to understand your vision. What are you giving as guidance into that organization? How do you co-create the future? And I did know already there is a future coming, which I wasn't able to talk about it openly, which was really difficult for me. So somehow this balance on the one hand, I want to be the helpful leader who is helping guiding the organization into the future. On the other hand, trying to make everything relevant, which is needed for people to succeed in that new setup. And then on the other hand, living a bit with the disappointment that everybody is waiting for what is our vision and mission for us, for our team, where I needed to be very reluctant. And then at a later point in time where I had to have a number of conversations with people, with individuals, where I had to explain your role is not continuing, your role ceases to exist. And what helped me in that situation was I promised myself that I will look into the mirror each and every night and I will double check whether I treated people how I would love to have been treated in such a situation. And still, I can tell you, you might have all experienced this situation. That wasn't easy after having been years more in a growth context, out of a sudden in one where you do the right thing, where you increase value, where you increase outcome. It took courage from my end to step up, to lead in the situation, and to be a role model in how I want to guide people through that change and to do, from a human centricity point of view, everything necessary in terms of supporting them in writing applications, supporting them with all types of things, learning, growing opportunities, whatever was possible to make them ready for their individual journeys ahead. So, courage, key ingredient. What you see here is our mission statement as procurement. We decided that we are trusted professionals. It's not longer about earning a seat at the table. It is about being a respected partner who is bringing value in the organization. It is as well about the very unique position which we as procurement professionals do have in our organizations. We are the only ones really being kind of the spider in the web and orchestrating all the internal and external networks and then creating the ecosystem which is creating value. And for sure, we never do this for ourselves. We do this to enable buyer's vision, which I talked about, health for all, hunger for none. And very important as well, I guess, it's all around how important sustainability is in these days and how this is helping us to make an impact in this world and a difference. So we embed sustainability in everything we do as a strong commitment we make here. So how have we done this? In fact, no stone was left unturned. Let me start with process and services. First of all, we came from a pretty scattered landscape of processes, and we went for harmonization, simplification, going one level further down, hardwiring a new taxonomy in our systems, and coming up with a new technology solution as well. We implemented globally the latest Ariba products in this context. We introduced, I mentioned it in the beginning already, we introduced a new global operating model as well with with three parties mainly. So on the one hand, our own teams, hubs, spokes, and nodes mainly, so very reduced locations. Contract to pay activities shifted to our shared services partner and the external service provider. The external service provider is doing a big bunch of sourcing for us, so we don't do all sourcing internally anymore. That was our situation before. I guess fair to say as well, if you look back on how procurement organizations have changed over time, then we were a bit later with starting to work with shared services center organizations, with external parties, while we then went in a relatively large scope. So another one was, and that was in the perception of people, a big change and one which caused many question marks as well. We decoupled the physical presence and the value delivery. So as mentioned, we have 5 hub locations. In those 5 hub locations, people have fully globally end-to-end responsibility for categories and for business partnering. And it doesn't mean that they are co-located with the business. There are a few scenarios where we still do this, while generally we rather brought talent together in one organization at one place instead of doing it differently and having people co-located all over the place. We found this is not only helping us to create better outcomes, it gives us as well additional opportunities for people development, talent development, learning and growth within our procurement community. And then fair to say as well, these teams are pretty lean, and they are by purpose pretty lean. And we know crises are happening all around the world, always, even tomorrow more than yesterday, it feels from time to time. So you can imagine that this very lean setup is creating a challenge from time to time. So we brought in what we call our rapid deployment team, which is a bunch of great people who we can pull in into priority projects along our value chain whenever there is a specific need for something like that. We have decided as well to go for empowerment of our stakeholders. So simple things like we gave the freedom to everybody, use your business cards, which you have anyhow, your kind of credit cards, for transactions below 5K. Not a problem, do that. We as well introduced in our guided buying platform globally a bunch of marketplaces where people can buy very, very easily things. We have significantly adjusted our threshold overall. So gave a lot of more empowerment into the organization for self-service. On the other hand, we did say this can only work in combination with a slightly adjusted risk philosophy. Because we came to the decision that instead of controlling everything from the beginning, we would rather establish a team which is looking into transactional diagnostics and using analytics to do some controls after the fact. So they monitor all our transactions continuously and check whether we are in sync with the frame which we have established. Because one thing is clear, even if we do say there is empowerment and we increase thresholds and help yourself in certain areas, that doesn't result in there's not a frame for something like that. And this one we have established not in our own procurement universe only, that was really then created in close collaboration from the colleagues in compliance, in HR, and in internal audit. Another one is, and I'm always glad to talk about this. I'm a lawyer by education, so contracting is always an area which I'm very closely connected to. So simplified approach towards contracts was something we have established as well. How did we do this? We introduced digital workflows. We were able to really shift tremendous amounts of contracts where we used historically the so-called paper contracts. We were able to shift this more into PO coverage. And then last but not least, we were able to really achieve globally a very lean and standardized template setup and a kind of system where you can put different clauses together to one contract, very lean digital workflow, and we have all contracts in one joint contract repository. Category excellence was an area where we stepped up as well. So we did introduce a new taxonomy, 480 categories in our own Bayer taxonomy are existing, and we have well documented and hardwired category strategies for all of them, which are co-owned in the majority of cases with the budget holders. We introduced few exceptions from that as well, because we introduced a kind of tiering system, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, according to the strategic relevance to the organization. And we got full mandate to take our own decisions for tier 3 categories. And that is only covering 15% of our overall spend, while it covers 70% of all of our transactions. And with that, it's a tremendous speed and simplification driver in that sense. Data as an asset. I don't know how the world looks with spend reporting and topics like that in your companies. We really came from a place where a lot of this work was done manually, backwards-oriented, historic data. And we were able to introduce Data One as our enterprise platform where all transactional and performance data are available at any point in time, real time. We did have to do a lot of master data cleansing as well. I guess this is a journey which will never be done, while we could really step up in the quality and the maintenance of our master data as well. And then, as I did say in the beginning, sustainability matters to us. We really embedded sustainability in everything we do. What does it mean? It means, on the one hand, that we have hardwired sustainability in all of our process decisions, etc. It does mean as well that we have a lot of change management and different ways of thinking and education happening in the organization to adapt to the standards we want to see from that angle. And that was really the capability building around this was led and driven together with our global sustainability team. And we did it really from two angles. So from the very classical type of procurement angle in terms of how do we want to ensure sustainable choices, CO2 commitments, what have you, while we have really run a campaign as well where we connect sustainability to our hearts and where that helps us to step up each and every day for doing the right thing and being closely personally connected to what we do here. So what you can see, we touched a number of different areas, and that was a multi-year journey. And I guess it's not a secret if I tell you we are not done in terms of now we lean back and there's nothing we have any idea or dreams to work on. So first of all, there are a few things on continuous improvement which we are currently tackling. So if you look on what you see here on the slides, new ways of working, stakeholder and transition management, user experience, then I guess it is fair to say that in that whole journey, our center and our priority was how can we ensure resilience? How can we ensure better outcomes? How can we ensure that we create value as much as we can? How do we become as efficient and lean on the other hand as well? User experience was not at the forefront of all of our decisions. And that is something which we want to address right now. We realize it is a little bit of a journey for our stakeholder organizations, specifically in the countries where people were used to have a local procurement organization next to them, which were helping with all types of different questions, where they are now in most cases, routed through a kind of ticket system in the first go and have to do many things themselves, which they were used to be taken care about before. So adjusting to this new way of working is something which we have to work on. And I guess secondly, we all might be able to relate to this. If you have as an organization have taken care for quite a while carrying out certain activities, and you might have been super good at it, and you liked it, then from an employee point of view, it's a journey for us as well to really let go and to give up certain activities which we were used to carry out for quite a while. Next level supplier management is an area which we have chosen as well. You will see this later on. I will come back to this in what is ahead of us a little bit as well. Because this is one of the areas where we are currently assessing another digital solution to help us become better, to ensure we are a partner of choice for our suppliers. Let me deep dive in two elements which are currently very much a priority or something we dig deeper into these days. The first one is people and culture. For sure, during that transformation, we have done all types of change management, communication, etc. While we were wondering towards the end of this transformation, what is the culture we need to be successful in this new world? And by the way, what do we know about our existing culture? As leaders, we had assumptions about what our culture is, while we then came to the conclusion assumptions is not the best approach here. And that is why we partnered with Human Synergistics, which is a cultural diagnostics solution, and there went into a longer assessment phase where we did involve a lot of people into help us to understand how the current situation truly is, and then we defined our ideal culture, and now we are on a longer journey. And one of the first things we as leaders in this organization had really had to swallow is when Human Synergistics told us, just to be aware, that you are aware, a cultural journey is nothing you do in 1 year, in 2 years. if you really want to shift the needle, that's a 6 to 9 year journey. You can imagine that's not what we want to usually listen to, and our first questions were, how can we accelerate? How can we accelerate? Then we came to the conclusion, you know what, it's anyhow important that we do it. We will figure out whether there are things we can do faster, and I guess if we look into the journey now, we see first successes really kicking in, and maybe faster than we hoped for, while we leaned in as well into the fact that this is going to be a longer journey being with us. We tried to tie many things to our purpose and mission much more than we did before. Spark stories, personal stories of people and employees, how they live our mission is what we do as well. We have gone differently than before into a very voluntary employee involvement program. So we have only those who want to do. The group of people is growing day by day, and is kind of a booster for our cultural journey and bringing the new insights, methodologies, and how to become more constructive into the whole organization. And then we invest a lot in leadership development as well to make sure our people and leaders are ready for today and for the future. And there are various different ways of doing this, one of which is close to my heart, given the fact that I'm an educated and certified business coach myself, is that we introduced coaching as a new way of not only leading, but as well interacting and influencing across the organization. Inclusion and diversity for sure matters as well. So people and culture, one of the focus areas we are currently looking at. And then, I guess we all are aware, next level procurement must essentially be digital. What is really important to me is this is not about the next tool to introduce. It's rather about asking what type of problem do we want to solve and how can I best solve this problem. So I talked about first things which we have done already, data as an asset in our digital foundation. We now are really assessing a different way of supplier collaboration via a platform and a category strategy dashboard as two examples, and want to increase the efficiency of our interaction and capturing insights with that. And then we continue as well our data and intelligence journey, where we really want to come from multiple data sets to a data lake, not only with assets, but with curated assets. That is what matters to us. And what we do here is, just to give you an idea, we create then what we call supplier 360, business 360, category 360. So we are able to look at the same type of data from different lenses to extract different insights and help us to make better decisions. So it's really coming from heterogeneous data, data quality, and a scattered reporting landscape into advanced analytics with automation support. We have already introduced artificial intelligence, a solution which helps us to match our spend to our taxonomy. And what we are currently looking as well is an NLP solution, which is helping us to extract unstructured data out of our contracts in the contract database instead of reviewing something like payment terms, etc. Not to do this manually and extract this, but having this done then by an NLP solution. So it requires as well, closely connected to people and culture before, as you can imagine, a different skill set and different mindset of people. And we absolutely invest in building this with our talents in the organization as well. So let me come to closure. What are the learnings which we made during our transformation? Be bold, dare to leap, and take people along. I really hope that this is helping you to be a little bit inspired for your transformations and transformation journeys as well. And with this, I'm super happy for any kind of Q&A.
Thank you so much, Ute. Great start to the day here. Right, if there are any, please close the door. If there are any questions from the audience, if you want to put your hands up, yeah, we've got one down here. Can we get a microphone down here, please? We've also had we'll get this microphone to you in a second. If you just put your hand up again, so we'll get the microphone up here. Thank you. I've had lots of questions come in from the virtual audience as well, so thank you for sending those in. We'll just address a couple of those now. But there's one comment here, actually, which is the best transformation journey I've seen so far. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much.
So there you go. And there's one here. This is from Joanna. We don't have the surname, but it says, how did you build this courage in operational people? What did you do to convince them about the transformation?
So let me think now what operational people are. I assume these are maybe stakeholders, people who receive our service, our support and our values. I guess what we did is we really created a picture of the future, and we involved them into the creation of our future landscape. So when we were clear what the direction could look like, we really tried to come up with what is in it for you individually and what is in it for the company overall. And let's be fair, there are situations where it's not in the interest of the individual while it's in the interest of the greater good. And I guess we have the pleasure of working with a workforce which is closely committed to the success of Bayer overall. And that was very often when we were able to explain and to react to their concerns and what are our solutions to their concerns, where this helped. Listening, by the way, is a key skill in my experience as well, really understanding what are the concerns and what are the mitigation measures and the solution we can offer.
Okay, thank you. I'm pretty sure that did answer the question, for sure. So if you just start, if you just say your name and where you're from.
Yeah, Michael Burt, Swan Procurement. Thank you for the presentation. I thought it was excellent. Quick question, how have you measured the success of your transformation? What sort of things have you considered? How do you know that what you've done has really made a difference to what people wanted from that transformation, whether it's the board or whether it's your key customers that you interact with?
We had aligned a number of different KPIs for this, some of them very hardwired, measure-oriented, some more survey-oriented in terms of asking our, where it's more difficult to measure, asking our stakeholders and how they perceive the change, etc. And really a set of KPIs, which was our North Star, and that guided into chunks of 1 year, why we did this from the beginning already for a longer period. And for sure, sometimes we had to adjust certain things on our journey, while really an aligned set of KPI, which was aligned with, coming back to the operational questions, with the key stakeholders on top level and with the board of management as well. So it was all clear that this is nothing we do in isolation, that this is something we do in support of the leadership of the organization overall.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'm going to take one more that's come in from our virtual audience. It says, Bayer has ambitious sustainability plans. What role do you see procurement having in achieving these, and was sustainability always part of the transformation plan?
Yes. Many of you might know our CPO, Thomas Udersen, who is very present around the topic of sustainability in public since a number of years already. And really, sustainability is ingrained deeply in the roots of our procurement profession at Bayer. So it was always, from the beginning, in our commitments, while for sure we were always looking at what are we required to do and what do we want to do on top of this. Fair to mention maybe as well that we are a founding member of Together for Sustainability, so a cross-industry organization to drive things around sustainability together. So absolutely strongly committed to drive this.
Okay, we've got loads more questions, but we don't have time for them, I'm afraid. A great start for the sessions today. Thank you so much, Ute.
Thank you to everybody.
Thank you.